I had a few days ago a dream where I died, and I died a very visceral, very real death. And I had experienced every physical, brutal sensation from the point where I started falling to my death because I was in a helicopter to the point that my corpse hit the ground and I felt every part of it. And during that process, listening to my thoughts, I realized that I did not have much regret. I had no regret. The only thing that stayed on my mind was the wrong I committed in terms of my morality and acting against my personal moral code. I remember that was very much distinctly the only thing that stuck in my mind, and I was literally in my head uttering a prayer of forgiveness for the things that I've done in my waking life. And after I had done that, I was just I accepted death with a little bit of fear. And I'm very grateful for that dream because it showed me early on, now at 19, what really prevented me from a full embrace of death. And considering that was the only thing that bothered me about my death, and I compare it to what really bothers a lot of people I see online and a lot of people in general, I feel like I have a lot to offer in a sense of how you can come to terms with the concept of death, in a sense of preparing for it. Because do not make the mistake that as a young person you are immune to death. You are not immune to ill health, you are not immune to a car crash, and you are not immune of any freak accident or any sort of crime that results in your death. And considering that, I genuinely believe you should prepare for death as much as you can, as early as you can, especially philosophically, because this is my aim right now, to prepare you for it philosophically. And I feel like I want to start now with getting your affairs in order. What do I mean by that? I mean, for me, I had specifically outlined two things, two non negotiables that I had before dying that I must complete before dying. Number one was organ donation, and that was something I was able to do when I turned 18. I signed up for organ donation, and now if I were to die, they can take all my organs and donate it because I believe in helping other humans as much as I can, and I really don't need those organs when I'm dead. So that was my number one in the list, and I've accomplished it, thank God. Number two was to complete a specific religious rite of my own religion, pilgrimage. And I haven't completed it yet. However, because I'm planning for it and it is in my intention, I am still okay with dying because it's in my intention. And that matters a lot to me. And relating to that, I also want you to get your religious affairs in order. Now, don't roll your eyes at me and go I'm an atheist. Okay, sure, whatever. I just want you to think. I want you to come to terms with what death is going to look like for you. Whatever religion you are, if you believe in the universe, or you're a Christian or a Muslim, or whatever you are, I need you to just come to terms with your religious affairs. Have no question in your mind about what death is going to look like for you and prepare for it accordingly. Because the more prepared you are for it, the more you know, the more accepting you are of it, and the less scared you are of it. And now, if you have children or people that depend on you, I also really want you to compose a will where you can make sure that your children get the assets that you want them to get so that you can rest knowing that your children will be taken care of. Like, for example, and this is a literary example, in Sense and Sensibility, due to the main heroine's father's mismanagement of his will and not putting it down on paper, it ended up happening that the person that got and inherited the estate had to kick out, like evicted his daughters, the father's daughters, from their rightful home, which was supposed to be theirs. But because of the father's lack of preparation, and at that point he was too ill to write, the um, the care of those daughters, like they just were subject to the elements and the people because there was no one, because he didn't prepare for it. So I want you to prepare for it. And even if you don't have anybody depending on you, I do think that if you have like worthy assets or something of sentimental value that you should kind of put in your mind, like who's going to take care of this thing, or who do I want to give this thing to, or even a pet. If you had a pet and you're kind of afraid of dying because you're like, who's going to take care of my pet? Well, start thinking about who is going to take care of your pet, whether it's going to go to the foster home, the shelter, whatever it's called, or if you're going to give it to a friend that really wants it and likes your pet. Just have your affairs in order. It's a very easy thing to do, and it's not as scary as you think it is. Now, I'm going to get into what people normally associate with death, and I think most people have one of these. It's a bucket list. So, I believe the notion of a bucket list is kind of misunderstood and misapplied in a lot of situations. When you have a bucket list, you're like, oh my god, I have to do these things or I will die before I die, or it's gonna suck for me. Like, I just need to do them. And that is not true. As I've told you about getting your affairs in order, like the organ donation, those are the necessary things that you cannot die without. However, if your bucket list included like traveling to Paris and you got into a car crash before you did that, would that suck for you? Yeah, you would be kind of upset at that, right? Well, that's why you should change the way you approach bucket lists. Have them as goals for your life, not as something that's linked to death, but as something that you just want to do and something that you want to include more of in your life. So, and in addition to that, I want you to have two versions of bucket lists actually. I want you to have an external bucket list and an internal bucket list, and I'll explain what both of them mean. So, an external bucket list is a list that depends on external factors. So, for example, I had traveling to Paris as an external bucket list because that depends on my financial situation, on whether or not I have time. So I'm putting that on the external. However, the internal is something that I can do right now and something that I am capable of doing. So, for example, for me, it was write a book. And I have written a book because that is something that I can do as a person right now, regardless of my financial situation, regardless of whatever I have. For some people, it might be starting a family or painting. I don't know what you have in your internal bucket list. I'm not you. But I think that it's very important to have the distinction, the mental distinction of between the two bucket lists and between the idea of bucket list and the affairs I mentioned. So, when this is the number one thing, this is genuinely the number one thing. And while I did all of these before, I fully started accepting the concept of death after doing this number one thing. It's determining my purpose and working towards my purpose and the goal. And this has it's like a Venn diagram between that and the internal bucket list. Because your internal bucket list, if you don't know what your purpose is in life, your internal bucket list can give you an idea of where you want to go. So, while you're determining your purpose, it's not just enough to determine your purpose. You must take active steps to engaging in that purpose and to producing something with this purpose. For instance, for me, writing has been my purpose, and I realized that it was my purpose because every time I wrote, I would have like I would have an out of body experience when I was really in the zone. I was sincerely flowing, and I felt a sense of happiness, serenity, and fulfillment that I have never experienced with any other activity that I have tried so far in my life. There was genuinely nothing that came close to writing for me. And it's to the point where if I don't write in a day, I feel like I've done nothing. And it's to the point where when I eat lunch, I'm like, oh, I'm eating lunch just to fuel myself for another writing session because that is genuinely where I felt my soul beat as if it were a heart. And when I discovered that, and when I not just discovered that, when I began working on something that genuinely mattered to me, which is writing a novel, I was okay with dying after literally writing chapter 2. I was okay with it because I was working, and if I died on the path to the novel, then it did not matter to me because I had the intention of completing it, and I was already on the path. I was putting in the work. I was aligning myself with my goals, with my higher self's goals, and etc. So genuinely, that was so impactful to me and to my relation to death. And it's very important to me in my relation to existence in general. So I cannot recommend finding a purpose enough for preparing for death. And if you do not have a purpose right now and you're afraid of death, let the intention of finding a purpose be worthy enough of a purpose for you. It's good enough that you are finding that purpose. And when you find that purpose, you're you're going to experience elation and happiness that you have never felt before, and it's going to make life matter so much for you. I have a video on purpose, by the way, and I feel that purpose is divided into three parts. And the one that I mention in this video is the third one, which is not as important as the first and second. The first being serving a higher purpose, like being a better person, just being a better person. And I have a full video on that. I'm not going to tell you the second one just to like give you a little bit of excitement for you to check out the other video. I'll link it in the description below. Um yeah, so when I'm talking about purpose in this video, I'm referring to the third purpose, the one that is accepted by the majority as purpose, which is something like writing, cooking, caring, parenting. There are so many different things in life that can be classed as purpose. So don't limit yourself in your search to something extraordinary like being a painter or a director. Try every single thing. And if you'd like, I could go into another video about that. I don't know. I'm usually a better presenter than a video maker because I'm just staring at myself here and it's very distracting in comparison to just presenting in a class. So yeah, subscribe, and I make videos every Thursday. And I'm sorry for missing last Thursday. I was traveling. Apologies. It will not happen again.